Hello, everyone. Peter Goldstein was not able to make it today. Welcome to VCOP 15, Vegan Convergence of the Peoples, number 15. I'm Rebecca B.J. Allen, and I have the honor to introduce to you Dr. Angela Crawford, who has for 25 years been a psychologist, and she's deeply interested in the connection between veganism and emotional well-being. She is passionate about the power of plant-based lifestyle for health, mental health, compassion for all sentient beings, and for our caring of the planet. So we're so glad you're here. Go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I'm going to share my screen. Again, I'm really honored to be here. I have attended some before, and I also was a presenter, I don't know, about a year and a half ago as well with Peter Goldstein. And I'm a advisor and a contributor for WeDidIt.Health. So he asked me if I would be here today since he wasn't able to, and I'm really honored to be here. So let me try to share my screen and see how that goes. I'm going to put it on slideshow if I can do that. Let's see. And I hear my cat starting to come in, so I may end up having to pick her up. She's 20 years old and she's kind of high need sometimes. When she wants attention, but I'm glad she's here. So, well, welcome everyone that's here, and I'm really honored to be here. The topic for today that I'm going to be covering is the power of proactivity for us as vegans to thrive and inspire, and especially as many of us are approaching holidays, I'm bringing that theme into what I talk about today. As a psychologist, I'm really interested in how we can thrive and be at our best, and that is a foundation, not only for us to live fulfilling lives, but hopefully for us to contribute to a vegan world that is more compassionate and more sustainable and healthier. So that is the focus for today. Holidays mean different things for different people, depending on our cultural background and depending on our religious background, where we live, our family. We all view the holidays differently. But for many of us, and especially perhaps in the US, we're facing a season with several holidays in a row that it's hard to avoid. Let me grab my cat. They confront us whether we want them to or not through advertising and through the events around us. So just thinking about your own experience with what holidays are for you, keep that in mind through this conversation. And so today what we're going to cover are some of the common challenges that we face as plant-based eaters, as vegans, and especially through the holidays, the key role of empowered communication, and 3 mindset shifts that will help to thrive through the holidays. And we'll dive into each of those mindset shifts in more detail. First, a little bit about my background. As was mentioned by BJ, I've been a psychologist for 25 years, and my background is working with stress, with trauma, with medical issues, doing one-on-one psychotherapy and group psychotherapy. And in that process, about 17 years ago, I became vegetarian, and that was for ethical reasons. It started when I'd seen a program on PBS about workers in meat processing plants. And although the program didn't really show a lot of details of what meat processing really was or what happened to the animals, it highlighted how the workers were treated. Many of them in this particular place were mostly immigrants, some of them undocumented, and many of them had frequent injuries. And they didn't feel they could take time off because they lacked the power to really have a voice. They lacked the economic status to be able to speak up. And just seeing the way that they were treated got me thinking about how my food came to me. It was just the first time I had really given that much thought or thought about the social justice issues related to food production. And I then had the thought, well, if you don't like how the workers are treated, what do you think about what happens to the animals? That thought led me on a journey that eventually led me to become vegan and led me to start cooking and reading and discovering so many things and understanding the connections between what we eat and food justice and environmental well-being and our own health, as well as, how billions of animals are treated each year and the process in which they're raised and slaughtered. Along the way, through my work as a psychologist, I had certification in EMDR, which is a trauma therapy, and some transformational coaching certification. And after becoming vegan, going to Main Street Vegan Academy to become trained as a master vegan lifestyle coach and educator, and getting certification also through eCornell in plant-based nutrition. And I've transitioned from working as a psychotherapist to bringing my background to educate and mentor and write about the importance of psychology to help vegan transformation, whether we're just transitioning to a vegan lifestyle or we're already vegan and we want to thrive as vegans and find our purpose. And then also how do we become better communicators to inspire and empower others around us? I authored an ebook for the We Did It community called 7 Best Practices to Inspire Loved Ones to Go Plant-Based. And right now, my project that I'm most focused on is I'm blessed to have a publishing agreement with Lantern Publishing, and I'm researching and writing a book about the impact of being vegan on our mind, body, and spirit. So that is really where most of my focus right now is going. So as vegans, people who eat plant-based, there's this paradox that we face. And one of the things that we find as a vegan is that it is often one of the most empowering and transformational decisions in our lives, because now we are living aligned with our values of compassion, justice, sustainability, planetary well-being, and our own health. And that can feel so freeing and empowering. I know for me, it's changed my life in countless ways. And yet at the same time, as it's transformational, it's also confrontational in some way, even when we don't intend to be. Because at the same time we're feeling these changes and this freedom, we're facing the societal norms that still exist, that still view meat eating as natural, normal, and necessary. What Melanie Joy called the 3 N's of justification. And these challenges and conflicts are often heightened during the holidays. And so as you think about your own holidays, maybe you can relate to some of these scenarios. Some of you that have been vegan longer, maybe you've learned how to work through these, or they're not so much a factor, but especially for new vegans, these can be some of the challenges that people face. As we become awakened to what happens in the process of creating food and especially the meat industry, it's very distressing to see our loved ones continue to indulge in foods that cause animal suffering, ill health, and degradation to the environment. We may find that we're the only ones in our family or close social network who are vegan and therefore feel isolated and unsupported at a time that we want to feel connected. And, for all these reasons, we might not be sure what to do during the holiday. So you might find that others become defensive around you, even when you're not intending to be confrontational, simply because you are the vegan in the room. You, without speaking up, reflect back to them something about their choices and values that may not be your intention to do, but can lead to defensiveness, and sometimes even in more extreme cases, ridicule or undermining or silencing of your vegan values. And we can't just ignore these challenges and gloss over them for many reasons. healthy relationships do matter. And the challenges in our relationships are certainly often highlighted when we're at the holiday season. We're not able to really get by in life without healthy connections. We're biologically wired to connect with others, and relationships are our source of deepest fulfillment and emotional well-being, at the same time that they can also be a source of our greatest stress. And over the centuries, human survival has been dependent on social connections. So it's really deeply wired into our very systems, physiologically, emotionally, and mentally, in every way that you can imagine. Science also shows that, when we are healthy, when we are lonely or isolated, it has health risks, that our longevity and our health status can be affected as much by loneliness or isolation as it is by things like cigarette smoking. So the brain is affected when we have relationship breakdowns. It actually causes real pain, affecting the same part of our brain that processes physical pain. And then, being vegans, we have additional reasons. We find that vegans who lapse away from veganism, one of the most common causes is feeling isolated or not supported or not having a good support system. So for us as vegans, it becomes really important that we work through these challenges and find a way to have support, find a way to navigate some of the difficulties that we might have with those who are not vegan in positive ways, because that's the biggest way to make sure that we stay strong in our own commitment. And on top of that, for many of us here, we not only want to thrive personally as a vegan, we want to create a vegan world. We recognize that change needs to happen on a planetary level, and that, for me as a psychologist, I see that how we treat animals affects how we treat humans. Those are interconnected, and it certainly relates also to how we treat nature and the planet. So in order to create social change, that requires healthy relational skills, because it's through connection that change happens. So the 3 mindset shifts that we'll touch on today to help inspire and thrive through the holidays are, first of all, to be intentional, and we'll dive into each of these in a little more depth, be prepared, and be proactive. So first of all, to be intentional. Just because things have always been done a certain way doesn't mean that's how it always has to be. Part of changing how we experience our family interactions and the holidays and other relationships, it starts with intention. Too often, it's easy to fall into just being reactive, to going to an event and reacting to what's showing up there and not having a plan of how we want to show up. And that can definitely happen with the holidays, where certain traditions can be so ingrained that it can be hard to see a way around those. And we may really feel like there's so many expectations on us. Now, again, those of you that have been vegan a long time, you've probably worked through a lot of this, but you may have newer vegan friends who are still earlier in this journey, and you may be supporting them to find their way through these challenges. So be thinking both in terms of, your own holiday experience, but also how you're empowering other people towards a vegan lifestyle and overcoming the very challenges that often are blocking points for people. So I invite you to think about the holidays that you might typically celebrate with your loved ones. And if you could make it the way you want it to be, what is your ideal vision of the holidays? Forget for a moment whether it's realistic or not. If you had your way and you could envision an ideal holiday season that really embodies your vegan values, what might that look like? And let yourself just take a moment to really feel that, to really allow yourself to envision that holiday, and both personally what you'd experience and then what it might create in terms of the larger picture for human well-being, animal well-being, and the planet. As you go deeper with your vision, you might move a little bit more then into some of the practical of what you actually will face and do, and how you'll respond, and what new ways you'll move forward during this particular holiday season that helps to create that bigger vision. So, what events and traditions do you want to continue to be part of? Which ones will you choose not to attend? What traditions that are new that you might want to create? What foods will you prepare, bring, and share? And how do you want to show up in your interactions with others? You might consider your mindset, your energy, just the whole emotional experience that you bring and how you show up, and also how you want to communicate your content, the things you'll say, the things you'll share, your tone, your body language. And, for many of us as vegans, one of the things we wrestle with is, do I go to a family gathering, a gathering of my relatives, for example, where there are animal-based products, or do I not go? And that's a really personal decision. I know some vegans that just simply can't be around it, and they'll have that conversation with loved ones that I can't be at that gathering, where there's the turkey in the center of the table. I just can't be around it, and they'll explain why, in terms of how that affects them. And then maybe plan something different that is another way to connect with loved ones that isn't being around the animal flesh or whatever activities that you don't want to be part of. For others of us, we may show up and be there, but really be the vegan role model who brings delicious vegan food and shows what is possible. And that can be really important sometimes. I know for me personally, a family member who was trying out a vegetarian diet and joined us for Thanksgiving dinner before I was vegetarian. She only ate the side dishes, but seemed to really enjoy the meal. And I think, seeing that she didn't eat the turkey or the meat and she was still enjoying herself, that planted a seed for me. And that was just 3 weeks before that program on PBS that opened me up to the ethical aspects of being, not eating meat, and first becoming vegetarian and then eventually vegan. So just realizing that, whether you show up for an event or you don't, your actions, your communication plays a role in showing what's possible for other people. So just holding, all these questions as ways that you can think through, like, how do I want to show up for the holidays? What do I want to say? And how do I want to do things differently? And maybe I'm going to create some new traditions, some new plans with others who are vegan, or propose that I'm going to bring the food or whatever that can help create a gathering that is more in line with what my values are. So as you're moving forward, you'll want to think about what your communication agenda is. Sometimes we have intentions for our communication that are not so healthy, and others might be healthier. And so part of, as you're envisioning how you're going to handle the holidays and what the intentions you have are, you might think about, first of all, when I have those difficult conversations, what are my intentions for those conversations? And healthy intentions can be things like that. You're sharing your own personal truth and why you have made the choices you've made. You're trying to create some shared understanding where they understand where you're coming from. You may understand what their concerns are, and you can create some kind of agreement around that. It's also important for there to be some sense of connection and safety, which just basically means, we each kind of understand to some degree where the other person's coming from and feel heard. And we feel a basic sense that we're wanting the greater good for both people in that conversation, even if we may not agree on what that looks like. And having healthy intentions for the communications we'll have around the holidays is really important, because most of us can figure out the practical parts of thriving through the holidays in terms of bringing food, whether we make it ourselves or buy vegan food that's already made, or some of these more practical things we can figure out. But the communication is where a lot of us find the most challenge. Even if we're good communicators, these very issues, and especially with family or certain, loved ones, can really push our buttons in ways other things might not. It's not usually so helpful to have the agenda that we're trying to win or prove we're right or superior, or to coerce someone to change. Most of us change when we feel like something has resonated with our own values, rather than because someone else told us we were wrong. So holding those ideas in mind. And the whole idea of contempt and shame. Contempt can be something that sometimes we don't realize we're expressing in our tone or our body language, but sometimes as vegans, because we are so passionate about wanting to create a healthier and more sustainable world, a more compassionate world, it can be really frustrating when others have not yet realized what we've realized. And sometimes I do see that playing out, in terms of a tone of voice or a way of relating that is somewhat shaming or conveying contempt. And rarely does that lead to lasting change, at least in terms of my experience as a psychologist working with clients. And when I look at the research, for example, that Melanie Joy and other leaders in the vegan movement teach, generally when people are under attack or treated with what they feel is disrespect or contempt, they're more likely to go into what you'd call fight or flight mode, that protection mode, where we're really trying to keep ourselves safe. And that fight or flight mode, while it can be really helpful for certain things, for good communication, it rarely helps things to go well. It shuts down our wise brain, it shuts down our emotional intelligence. So it's harder to have a meaningful conversation or create meaningful change. And often when one person's in fight or flight mode, it tends to be contagious, where the other one might react in ways that get triggered as well. And we feed off each other, and nothing productive usually happens in those conversations, as many of us can probably think of times that's happened in our lives. So that leads us into the next key mindset. After you've set your intention, both for what you want the holidays to look like, how you want to show up, how you want to communicate. Next is being prepared and really thinking about what your typical challenges are, or the challenges are that you can anticipate. This might be something where you just sit down and actually create a list. What are the people I know push my buttons that I'm likely to have, challenges or conflicts with? What events am I just going to have a hard time with if I were to go? What people are going to be frustrated if I don't do certain things that I'm going to need to communicate with? What things just don't work for me anymore that I need to make a change around? So just be thinking that through, and you may not be able to think of everything that could come up, but you'll have some ideas, and then you'll be thinking about, well, what do I need to help me? What information and support do I need, to help me make more empowered and proactive decisions, and to handle this situation in a way that's actually going to be workable. So just what resources and supports do I need? Do I need people to talk it over with and bounce things off of? And this leads into next, once you have a whole bunch of, you brainstormed a whole bunch of ideas of what might be your challenges and what you might do to help address them, now is the time to be proactive. So again, instead of being reactive and just showing up, being proactive, have, first of all, those practical solutions. One of those is that you always bring great vegan food. That's always a winner. So often people are just, amazed of how delicious vegan food can be. And I've learned to be a better cook as a vegan. And I do love bringing something that people who are not vegan are really surprised at how good it is and ask for the recipe often. One thing that's so important is including self-care. Holidays, for many people that can be very stressful, vegan or not. Just sometimes what we perceive as the expectations of the holidays can lead us to just taking on too much. So thinking about what kind of self-care do you need through the holidays and really being proactive and setting up time for that, whether that be solitude, enough rest and renewal, doing some things you really love and finding time to center yourself. Being proactive is also, most importantly, also about our empowered communication and our boundaries. And so this follows up on what we were talking about earlier, that there may be some events you choose not to be part of. There may be some events you're part of, but you need to explain what you're willing or not willing to do. There may be some events that you create and that you want to invite people into. So thinking about how you approach that, again, coming back to the power of intention and thinking about, what do I want for myself, for the other person, and for the relationship. Again, I find that we go into communication sometimes without having thought that through, what we really want. What is the outcome we want? What do we want to create in terms of the process between the two of us, or, if it's more than one person. And when you connect with what you want for yourself in the situation, what you want for them, and what you want for your relationship, it helps you to communicate in a way then that actually helps to allow that to be possible. You can't control the outcome of a conversation, but you do have a say in how you show up in terms of your tone, your body language, your words, and your intention, and bringing that forward in a way that creates the greatest chance that there can be some shared understanding, at least agreements that help you to navigate the holidays in a way that feel good to you, and maybe plant seeds for the other person to see new possibilities, even if they don't happen right away. Just as for me, when my stepdaughter was vegetarian for the Thanksgiving holiday, I didn't become vegetarian that day, but it planted a seed where 3 weeks later, I saw a program that made me aware of what happened with the meat industry, and it set me on my own journey. So just realizing, intentions to change another person rarely work, but intentions to share your truth, to be respectful, to plant seeds, to maybe get them to think a little bit, those are, and think in ways that are aligned with their own values, those are reasonable intentions. And so for the holidays, maybe really in any event, I guess, thinking about, well, how do I honor my desire to spend time with loved ones and honor my commitment to vegan values? Sometimes those things just get mixed together. We think, or our family members might think like, well, this food is part of our tradition, and if you love me, you'll eat it, or you'll be part of this event. But no, I can love you and not choose to eat that, or not choose to be part of that event. So you're really separating it out, that, how do I express to this person that I care about them and I want to spend time with them and share my own values and have those be heard and respected too. And it may mean different ways that the holidays are celebrated, but it still can be meaningful and still can be fulfilling. And so really, in asking these questions, how can I spend time with loved ones in ways that are aligned with my values and my vegan commitment? And sometimes just the very act of asking these questions opens us up to creative solutions. So just kind of staying with them, even if you're not sure the answer right away. I love Melanie Joy's work. She wrote, the book Beyond Beliefs, a guide to improving relationships and communication for vegans, vegetarians, and meat eaters. And she's also wrote the book Getting Relationships Right, and more recently, How to End Injustice Everywhere. So her teachings are very helpful when we're trying to communicate in ways that are both help create some family connection or connection with our loved ones, but also can be transformational. So she points out that veganism can act as a lightning rod for other problems that are already present in our relationship. And attending to our relationship doesn't mean that we choose the relationship over our beliefs. It means we create a relationship that has space for our beliefs. So we're not saying, my beliefs don't matter, I'm just going to try to save the relationship. It's like, no, there's space for both. I am who I am, and I'm going to share those values and help to make change in the world. And I am going to kind of start to nurture the relationship to change in ways that has more space for that, if possible. A few brief things on what creates a healthy relationship. Even when we disagree, these things can be present. Even in conflict, these things can be present. So just holding that, in a healthy relationship, we trust that the other has our best interests at heart and prioritizes our safety. And, start with yourself with this. Am I creating an environment that, even though I'm disagreeing with them, they see that I do care about their well-being at heart? And connection, where we feel seen, understood, valued, and nourished. Again, starting with ourselves. Am I creating that place where, even though, again, I might disagree with the other person, that I can ask questions and listen and reflect back what I'm hearing so that they feel at least seen and understood, and that I care about them? And a healthy relationship has integrity. We're acting in alignment with our values and morals. So just really holding those core principles throughout all this. A few thoughts on, when conflicts do come up, focusing on, again, that I keep bringing up intentions, but I think those are really powerful because it takes us out of reactivity into what you want to create and the power that you do have to make an impact. Do speak up about your needs and feelings. And, down below where it says be mindful of your thoughts, feelings, and reactions and what's going on inside of you, I just want to really highlight that this isn't about like stuffing down your feelings, just being nice. Your feelings are so key to like actually making powerful change, both in your own life and in the world. So if there is anger, if there is sadness, if there's worry, if there's other feelings, for yourself, being mindful of those and working through those and acknowledging them and letting them guide how you move forward. The key thing, though, is that when you're speaking up, you might be angry, but you're just not letting the anger be the thing that drives your tone and, how you communicate it. The anger just gives you the empowerment that you want things to be different. The anger is that cue that that you have a need for something to change. So really not stuffing the feelings. They are so important in us transforming ourselves and the world. So being mindful of them, being aware of them, doing what you need to do to work through them, having support, all of that. But then when you speak up, finding ways to then have it come from the intentions rather than just your feelings. The feelings may guide your intentions. But once you've acknowledged your own feelings, you'll be able to speak up in a way that's more empowered and able to be heard. And you can acknowledge your feelings in what you share. So ideas like discussing differing beliefs rather than getting into a debate mode where you're trying to prove yourself, you're being able to share them in a way that allows the other person to see things the way they do, but you being able to clearly express where you're coming from. And where possible, finding mutually agreeable solutions. What can we do for this particular holiday event that is workable for you and hopefully workable for the other person? And when you are triggered, sometimes you might need to take a time out before you can respond or take a deep breath even. I think the idea of iMessage is also really important. When you're sharing your own story and your own reasons for why you do what you do, it's harder to argue with that. When you share your own reasons and feelings for why you became vegan or how you feel when certain things happen that are not aligned with veganism, the other person can empathize with you more because you're sharing your own feelings. Your own vegan story, for example, is a powerful explanation when someone asks, why are you vegan? We'll share, I became vegan because in your own journey of why you chose this lifestyle, rather than sharing lots of facts and figures, which maybe at some point you will share, but overloading someone with too much information sometimes just shuts them down rather than makes them curious. So learning to be a better communicator is an ongoing process. There are so many great books and resources for how we can continue to grow in this. It's just ongoing because new situations bring up new challenges. So I do want to mention a few resources I find helpful for improving communication and improving our relationships, whether just in everyday life and certainly also as we are approaching holidays. And I want to take a moment to really say a moment about WeDidIt.Health as a resource for supporting you in that area. WeDidIt.Health was created by Peter Goldstein, and his vision was, how can we as plant-based eaters, vegans, become better at planting seeds of inspiration for those around us so that they can embrace what we're discovering, with a vegan lifestyle. So often, we know the health benefits and we see family members struggling with health and we're like, how do we get them to see this? And yet so often our ways of trying to express it aren't going over well. So WeDidIt.Health was created to provide a platform, a community, resources, and classes to help us discover how we can not only do well ourselves and thrive as vegans, but also then take that next step to plant seeds and inspire and impact others. And one thing, it's really exciting that is coming up with We Did It starting just in I think I have the wrong, it's supposed to be November 14th, not October. Sorry about that. Starting in November, there's going to be the Thrive and Inspire Festival. And I'll just say a little bit about that. It gives you the chance to connect with like-minded vegans from all over the world, similar to this event. It gets you to engage in ways that you can grow and learn in your skills and to help you thrive and inspire through the holidays. And we're really excited because vegan psychologist Claire Mann, who wrote the book Dystopia, will be a key leader in this class, and she's creating a lot of the content and will be doing some of the teaching along with other experts, including myself and Mariquita Solis and some others, Trevor, some other people that will be there. So you'll get a chance to learn how to communicate better, how to handle some of the situations that I just touched on here in much more depth than I could convey here, and a chance to practice with others who are on the same journey as you and to have fun along the way. So just to summarize, through the holidays, be intentional, be prepared, be proactive so that you can thrive and inspire to create that vegan world through the holidays and beyond. So thank you.
Wow, thank you so much.
I know there were some comments and I wasn't able to read them while I was talking, but I don't know if there's anything that should be comments or.
Let's see, we had somebody sharing about their family. I don't know if if the person wants to, if he wants to come on and say, oh, here's what he said. Our family, 2 daughters, we changed our everyday greeting. We say, good vegan morning or happy vegan Halloween. Clicking a photograph, we scream, save trees and save bees to get that picture perfect smile. So those are wonderful things to institute.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And so that's a little bit more open with the vegan word and getting people used to that. Whereas I didn't hear you using the vegan word so much, plant-based, but anyway, I suppose that works within your family unit or group of friends, right?
Well, yeah, and I did use the vegan word. I think
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
WeDidIt.Health started as a more health-based initiative, I wanted to include plant-based as well.
Yes.
But for me personally, it's all about being vegan and ending all animal use. But yes, keeping it open to whatever terms people want to use that help them to make the holiday aligned with vegan values.
Right. Vegan values. Wonderful. For me, I have a number of events besides holidays. Ray, I see your question. So it is more than just holidays, like weddings are also difficult. I wondered, could I put a vegan sign on the table so that nobody would bring their meat over to me? It turned out fine. I just had to get my mind in the right headspace. But even those kind of events, like you said, are important.
Yeah. And I think, one thing I wanted to share is, again, different people are in different places with their journey of handling the holidays. But for many vegans, if they don't have a lot of support, it can be isolating. And so, the We Did It festival, and you guys just put the post up and I just added it again, it's something to look into to be able to connect with other vegans through this. And the goal is, depending where anybody is on their journey, to be able to thrive, because if we're not thriving, we can't inspire. And then to inspire and having all different tools to do that. Some of us are more out there advocates, making it part of our life. Other people, it may just be their advocacy may just be not just, but it may be like the food that they bring to a family gathering that it happens to be vegan and they share that it's vegan. So wherever someone is on that continuum, we can all grow in our communication. So just want to really acknowledge that. I see that there's a hand raised.
Yes. Go ahead, Ray. Welcome.
Hi, Angela.
Hi, Ray.
It's very exciting to think about how we get people excited about transition rather than dreading it. And
yes.
Serving the vegans and being surprised that we're not suffering all the time. And you mentioned engaging with people with I statements, and I always wonder how strong our I statements can be, because I perceive a need for everybody to go vegan. That was my transition. Was my wife was an ethical vegan, and I saw Cowspiracy, and I thought, okay, the world has to change, and the only person I really have control over is myself. So I have to be I have to change myself and then express my perspective with the world. So that those I statements are very much more engaging than you statements, like when you challenge somebody. But of course, we are very passionate about what we believe, so that passion comes through, and it kind of has to come through, but you got to kind of modulate it. So do you have any thoughts on just visualizing and believing in a vegan future? That's something that can be very contentious, but if you believe it, or you at least believe that the only future I'm interested in is the vegan future, conveying these things, how have you found that it's how far can you express yourself? And obviously we want to be joyful vegans as well, but we're motivated by a bit of fear as well.
I think that's a great question. And I think it's very individualized depending on you, your own personality and style and intentions and who you're communicating with. As part of WeDidIt.Health, we had a program last summer called Master Vegan Conversations, and some really great conversations came up amongst us vegans of different approaches. For example, Jeff Palmer is going to be speaking shortly, and I'm not sure of his topic, but he's a vegan bodybuilder who tries to inspire guys at the gym to think differently about veganism. And he is very direct and even semi-confrontational in his approach, but still respectful. And so he, in that setting, uses a much more direct approach than I might use, like with maybe a fragile aunt at a Thanksgiving dinner, for example, that I'm worried, I don't know, that she wouldn't be able to handle it so well. I'm probably not going to be quite as direct with her as like somebody that can handle that more confrontational approach. So I think really it depends on you, Ray, to some degree, like what your relationship is with this person, what you're wanting to convey. And I think that a lot of times when you're doing it from a place of respect and wanting the greater good for the other person, you can say a lot that can be pretty tough and still get by with it and not damage the relationship necessarily. Again, some relationships will be damaged regardless, just because people aren't open, even when you're being the most respectful you can be. So I think when you feel strongly like you do, to speak the way you feel called to speak, and you'll decide when you want to be more intense about it and when, it's not a situation where that's really going to benefit the other person hearing you. You sort of weigh that out, that they're not going to be as receptive to a real confrontational approach. But yeah, you can share in I statements, whatever it is. Like, I think when you're sharing in I statements, it's like what you've discovered. You're not saying that they're wrong. You're saying, I thought that too, but this is what I found along the way. And I think that's eye-opening because you're giving a person a chance to kind of see your journey and how you move from feeling like they might have felt to totally different. So I don't know if that fits for you or how that.
I very much like that answer, because I do perceive a difference between vegan philosophy and vegan praxis, vegan outreach. The way that people, when you are a vegan philosopher or a vegan defendant of the vegan definition, for example, you can be rigid, you can declarations and draw your line in the sand. Whereas when you're doing outreach, you are a chameleon. You have to listen more than you tell, and that's always a big challenge, especially for people that like to megaphones and
yes.
outreach people that have to ask more questions and listen and be able to detect where that line is. Where's the threshold of this conversation? Where can I take it? And what the expectation of the person in front of you. Sometimes you'll find somebody who's had the seeds planted, and sometimes you'll find the people that just you're the first seed.
Yes.
The opportunity, and start tending to people's transition. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Angela. Nice to see you. It's
Nice
Alice.
to see you too.
I wanted to take advantage of your presence here today to ask that about a situation that some of us find ourselves in, because there are people out there who, before they even meet us, have already taken a strong stance against veganism. Their back is up against the wall and they're defensive, and it's easy to walk away in some situations and just let them be on their journey. But there are some situations where it's a relationship that really does matter, where it's a person who has an impact on our life. And so I just wondered if you had any insight on how we can maneuver in that kind of a situation.
And what is the challenge in this situation? Is it that they're not being respectful of you being vegan, or is it that you're really wishing they would become vegan? Or
no, they're not being respectful of me being vegan.
Yeah, no, and that is unfortunately too common. Again, I think because of people's defensive not wanting to change, and not perceiving change as possible or positive. So yeah, that is a tough one. It's a really important question. First of all, just thinking about like what the kind of relationship is that you would want with this other person who, whoever is experiencing this, what kind of relationship do I want? Obviously it would be great if they would become vegan too, and we'd love that. But we know that there's stages of change, and some people are in what's called pre-contemplation, and they're not moving out of that right away. So we know that that may not be a reasonable request, but I do believe sharing how important veganism is to you and that you want them to be a support for you. Melanie Joy talks about vegan allies. There are some people that are not ready to become vegan themselves at this moment. We, again, wish they would. But they might be more ready to support you if it's in terms of like, our relationship matters to me. You talk to me in such and such a way about veganism. Maybe you think it's being funny or whatever. It doesn't feel that way to me. It puts a distance between us. I would really like for us to be closer. Can we talk about this? And you'd get into the specifics, perhaps, of what they're saying or doing that is hurtful to you. And you might have an ask for them. It might be perhaps, we can have conversations where you're supportive of my veganism because I'm doing this for my health, the planet, animals, whatever your reasons are. I'd really like you to be behind me with it. I'm not trying to force you to change. I may wish you would, but I'm not asking that of you. I am asking you to support my change and my lifestyle and not undermine me. Sometimes when people realize you're not forcing them to change in what you're doing, they can back off and be more supportive. If they're not, you may have to decide after this conversation, you might have to decide some boundaries about what you're willing, how much time you spend with them or what situations you spend time with them. You might have to let them know, that you are actually stepping back a little bit because these conversations really distance you from them,
In some of our conversations among ourselves, we've talked about situations where we're dealing with like school administrators and things like that, who are taking unreasonable, or even church administrators who have taken unreasonable relationships, rejecting diversity in terms of what we eat. And, it's not a rational stance. It's something emotional that people in positions of power that influence not only ourselves, but the people that we relate to in the environment. And those are situations where it feels so hurtful.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, some people do really try to change and move with us, and others resent and fight it. And it is hurtful. And I know people whose doctors who've tried to convince them, like if they're sick, that means they need to go back on meat, or, it's just people that we want to be able to trust to support and back us sometimes undermine us. And that is true. I think as long as we're a minority, which right now we are, that's going to happen to some degree. And again, it will be about deciding, how do I want to respond to this, and having lots of vegan support that empowers us to keep showing up if we want to show up in that situation, because you never know when that's going to shift.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would like to extend that thought. I come from a Indian background, Indian family, where everything is a celebration. Okay, you graduate, it's a celebration. You have to declare that you have graduated. You get married, you have to declare you have got married. So whoever is your next host, they know that whenever they are calling you for a dinner or any event, there is a +1 that is added to you. When you have children, you have to ceremonies, naming ceremonies, invite people, tell them you have a child. So next time again, when they call you, they know there's 1 + 1 and +½ And they also need to take into considerations, okay, this family is coming up with a child. So they would need something to be consumed that is less spicy or something like that. I think we should take veganism as a life, say, step or an important event. So, for example, if I'm vegan, I should declare it to all my relatives that now I'm vegan. If you want to invite me, make sure you have something for me, which is vegan. So I think they would take it positively. Anyways, relatives or friends are something. Some people they would say, "Oh, he married that girl. He could have got a better girl." So they would say, "Oh, he went vegan. Oh, he could have continued." So that's fine. That's the part and parcel of what we have every day with everything else as well. But at least it makes a clear understanding amongst people. Those who are interested into it will surely come ahead and ask, why did you go vegan? What is veganism if they don't know? And it's a good platform to understand and talk about it. So even if you have completed, like we complete our anniversaries or birthdays every year, why not celebrate this Friday? I'm marking 5th year of my vegan anniversary or something like that. And you all are invited. Everybody loves free food. They can taste food and they can have a conversation as well. So something to take positively rather than always trying to ridicule people for their diet or just being into an activist mode. Just be a bit receptive and give and share love as well.
I like that. That's a great, those are both great ideas. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, I tell you, Angela, this has been very pertinent and relevant to me, and I'm sure everyone here. And I wonder if you would like to close with any final words, because it's time.
Yes. Well, just one, I'm really honored that it worked out for me to be here, and I really appreciate what you all are doing with Climate Healers. It's certainly very aligned, and for those of you that it kind of struck a chord with you, hope that you'll join us through the Thrive and Inspire Festival, and I look forward to just seeing more events here. So thank you so much.